Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Kaba Ilco number 7245 SC18 in a 10B finish. This is a mortise cylinder is what it is. Let's do a quick visual tour of the item. On first glance, you might say to yourself, yeah, it seems a little long. It is. It's an 1.5 inch length mortise cylinder. Certainly less common than most cylinders. And that dimension is from the underside of the head to the back of the cam. And it is longer than what you'd normally bump into. Longer mortise cylinders are generally for unusual applications or less common, which we'll talk about. This is a 1 5/32 diameter, 32 threads per inch. It's a standardized thread size and pitch count. Very nice, smooth operation. This has an unusual or less common fantail cam on the back side of that. So dimensionally, that's what this measures. Why you would use this, what you're looking at this to use it for, why might you be looking at this video? Let's talk about that now. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Okay, why are you looking at this mortise cylinder? Well, you probably need a longer length mortise cylinder. The fantail cam, we'll just cut that out of the conversation now to say what it's for. This is called a lorry or a fantail cam, and that fantail cam is one of the two cams that you can use on the Kaba Ilco 45 series deadbolts. Kaba Ilco has their own series of deadbolts, and they can operate from the Adams Wright MS cam, the 863G, I think. I don't recall. Or it's 863A. Let me just Kaba 863G. It is the 863A cam, which is the standard Adams Wright. This is the 863R, I believe. Yeah, it is. It's the 863R. I like the fantail cam because it makes so much more contact when you are throwing the bolt back and forth because of how wide it is. So if you were using a Kaba Ilco 45 series deadbolt, which you probably aren't, not a lot of people know about them, this would be the cam that you'd want to use. This client, this job, literally we have three 45 series Kaba Ilco deadbolts for this client. And why the 1.5 inch cylinder? Well, he has an unusual door thickness. It's a 2.5 inch thick door. So we have a 1.5 inch cylinder here. We have an 1.5 inch mortise thumb turn on the other side. Well, that would be about 3 1/16 overall effective length. But then we've got the escutcheons that we're going to have to get through, the cylinder collars and a backing ring. So a little bit longer length here is what is called for. An 1 3/8 would have been a better size to use for that, or we could have used that. It's just that's not available. So we're going to have to. So we'd have to use this longer length item is the bottom line. And when the client goes to assemble that 1.5 inch length cylinder through the collar, adding probably a trim ring, a thin one, and a wave washer, it's going to work out just perfectly, is what that length is for. Again, we could have used a shorter cylinder, no doubt, but 1 3/8, 1 1/4 to 1.5 inch is the jump in Kaba Ilco. There are 1 3/8 cylinders, but not laying on the shelf in a conventional core, etc. And I could have taken a shorter cylinder and then built an extension onto it. In fact, just coincidentally, I have a project here that I will be doing this weekend where this client needs that's a 7245, so it's an 1.5 inch cylinder. I have an extension here that's 1 inch. This client needs 2.5 inch length cylinders. So I'm literally going to take, with this extension by this company called Major, and they make 4 different extension lengths, and we can stack them. I'm going to remove this cam, not on this job, this other job, but same length cylinder. I'm going to remove its cam. I'm going to drill and tap 2 holes. I'm going to put that extension on. I'm going to add, well, first I'll add the drive cam. I'll put the extension on. I will screw that together with the machine screws included. Then I'll attach the cam to the drive cam extension, and voila, I'll have a 2.5-inch length cylinder. That's how that'll work. So why would you need these weird cylinder lengths? Well, this client literally has an 2.5-inch thick door. That client, I think it's a 4-inch thick door or something odd like that. I've got 2.5 times 2. No, it's thicker than that. Maybe 4 3/4. Something truly unusual is happening on that job. I don't have indicated here what the door thickness is, but it will be something well beyond 4-inch. That's to be sure. It must be 4.5 or 4 3/4, something in that range is why, or it could even be 5-inch if we have really thin cylinder collar heads. So you have an unusual door thickness, most likely, is what you have, like this job, like that job. You could also have a door thickness that's, let's say, not 1 3/4. Let's say you could have 2 1/4 inch. And you are going to bias the lock body towards one side, towards the secured side of the opening, the side opposite the key, where you've got, let's say, a 2 1/4 inch thick door, but you are moving that lock case over. So you'll need a shorter thumb turn or thumb turn spindle, but you'll need a longer cylinder. Or you have, a thick door, or you have a standard door. Here's more common. You have a standard door thickness, 1 3/4. But now on the secure side of the opening, someone is adding 3/4 inch of something, panel, wood trim, fabric panel, granite, whatever's being added. You'll need a longer cylinder for that. This may or may not be the right cylinder for that application, but it could be. It all has to do with where you're placing that lock body as well. And if you were extending mortise locks for use on unusual door thicknesses, you've got to think about the thumb turn length, if there is a thumb turn, the mortise cylinder length, if there is one, the length of the spindles, and the length of the mounting screws, and then the length of the lip of the strike plate. All of those items will be impacted based on door thickness, and most definitely what you need to change or alter depending on what is being extended. Now, a very common application for longer mortise cylinders are obviously what we're talking about, but lock manufacturers, residential specifically, and I'm definitely thinking of Baldwin, it's common for them to have in their catalog, in inventory, in stock, ready to go, 1.5 inch, 1 5/8, 1 3/4, 2-inch, 2 1/4, and longer cylinders. So occasionally, rather than build that cylinder, because that'll be a couple hours of labor there to drill and tap and make 2 of them, etc. We'll just order a Baldwin cylinder and then we'll swap out the cam on the back. The problem with that is those are really costly cylinders, and so we'll do that. And extending a standard cylinder like that is also costly, but it will always come down to 2 things: cost and how quick can I get my hands on it. And sometimes those Baldwin cylinders, even though they're a fortune, they're ready to ship usually. And if it's an unusual finish, and the client doesn't matter that the face of the cylinder is going to say Baldwin, which I don't see why they would. No, forget. I take that back. I do see why someone would care, whether it be you don't care that it says Baldwin or any other manufacturer, all the way up to the other end of that spectrum, where there are times when we do jobs, there's a particular client who has an end user who does not want any corporate advertising on the face of their cylinder, so they order them without the logo. Anyway, so that's why you'd probably be looking at this, is the bottom line. This is made of solid brass, the plug and the shell, very smooth operation. This is going to give you decades of reliable, faithful service. This is an original Schlage look-alike key blank. This is 5-pin. This is drilled 7. There's no reason to drill this 7 because there is no such thing as a 7-pin Schlage blank. But obviously they can use all of these parts with a different broaching on a system that would take a 7-pin, like a Yale could take a 7-pin, or a Corbin could take a 7-pin. The point is if you had a 5-pin or a 6-pin Schlage system, you could pass it through here by adding the spring in the driver pin. This is a C Keyway. The C Keyway an extremely old Keyway from Schlage, I think in about the mid-1930s. Fun fact on the C Keyway, it is the opposite of the best A Keyway. It's drawn symmetrically opposite. The engineer who drew the Schlage C Keyway, the most common or the second most common Keyway in the world, maybe the Quickset Keyway is more common, worked at Best. He was an engineer there. Well, Schlage hired him on, and he loved that A Keyway so much, he drew the reverse, and it's the Schlage C Keyway. So this is extremely common that you might have this. Now, let's switch to the screen view and let's take a closer look at some supporting information. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. All right, here's the item that we are looking at. Well, not exactly, because we don't have the item in the site just yet, but here are some photographs of the actual item. There's the box. By the way, the KA2, it just means these cylinders, when they come out of the factory, there are pairs of them that are key-to-like. They're key-to-like in groups of 2. So if you had a box of 10 cylinders, you're going to have 5 pair key-to-like. Each of those 5 pair will be keyed differently from each other. There's the contents of the box. Close-up of the cylinder. That's called a scalp plate. That's a very thin piece of brass with this finish on it. It looks like it's been powder-coated, but they do call it 10B. That's the length of the cylinder, or the side view. That milling that's there is for the set screw in the mortise case to seat into when you tighten it, to prevent that cylinder from being rotated. Once you install that cylinder, you'll tighten that set screw that will seat here to keep that from rotating. The face view, a close-up of the broaching of the C Keyway. That cylinder plug is broached. The lorry fantail cam on the back. I'm not familiar with any other lock this works in. It could work in other locks. I'm just not familiar with any other locks that it works in. Only the 45 series. And that could have been, I'm not familiar with the history of that deadbolt, but it could be that lorry lock that somehow Kaba Ilco ended up owning, or whoever owns Kaba Ilco now. That they may have had that line of deadbolts, and that might have been the tailpiece, or pardon me, the cam that they use. And then here are your 2 original look-alike keys. C, it's got a direct code on there. That's the actual bitting of the key. 31315, 31315. That's the cuts. Now, some extended description information down below. We need to look at it here because I have it updated here. It's an 1.5 inch long cylinder, 5-pin drilled 7, Schlage C Keyway with the 863R. Let's study the 863R cam. You can search that in our site, and then it comes up, lorry deadbolt cam. More information about that cam and all of the other cams that you can put on the back of Kaba Ilco cylinders are there. Oil rub bronze finish, standard thread size, 32 threads per inch. That's called ultra fine. I think that you would use ultra fine when you are trying to thread something down to something that's relatively thin, like you would see in a lock case. A lock case would be a relatively thin piece of material. So lots of threads packed per inch is why they do that. Okay. Now, there is a link below this video, as seen here, to the manufacturer's page, where we can pull up not only all of the Kaba Ilco products that we sell by means of this horizontal navigation, but also a link to the manufacturer's website here. Also a link to the Kaba Ilco key blank catalog. A very interesting document, 400 plus pages of all things key blanks from Kaba Ilco. Their section 2, or this purple section, is what they call the North American cylinder. So your Schlage, your Yale, your Sargent, your Corbin, et al., all kinds of different key blanks and keyways are in this catalog. So really helpful document. There's also a link to the brass cylinder manual. And that will allow us to take a look at that 45 series deadbolt. And it's fun to be able to look at that deadbolt series, and because that's the application we're using, I did want to point it out. What's unique about this series is, well, it's not unique, but there is a unique feature to this. I'll talk about that in a moment. What's really nice about this series is that it's modular in the sense that, how thick is your door? I've done 6-inch thick doors. I've used this deadbolt. I've just created really long cylinders. It works perfectly. You've got a 2.5-inch thick deadbolt? No problem. I can supply you with cylinders to do that right off the shelf. And that's what's nice about this. Also, it's a very clean look. It doesn't project much from the face of the door. It requires a smaller than standard hole. It'll fit into a hole as small as 1 7/8 inches, which, you know, not that you're going to drill that, but it would be nice if this took a smaller hole, that's for sure. You can also toss into it other cylinder types. Let's say that you have not only an interchangeable core housing, but let's say you had a restricted or restricted patented sort of keyway. Let's say you were doing Medico. Let's say you were doing Obloy. Let's say you were doing multi-lock. Any of these exotic cylinders, of which Schlage, you know, Kaba has their own exotics as well. They still make the Gemini, which is a dimpled key as far as I know. And then they have, you know, with their sister companies, many protected and restricted blanks. I'm working on a small project now for some Cormacs from Best. That's a sister company of Kaba. So you can get a deadbolt off the shelf and then throw your own cylinders into it. You won't get a Lori fantail cam from Medico on a Mortise cylinder of theirs, but you will get an Adams Wright MS cam, and that'll work just perfectly. Thumb turns can be done either in a traditional single cylinder, or you can do a Mortise cylinder if you have an unusual thickness. That's what I'm doing on this job. I have a Mortise thumb turn because of the unusual thickness. You can do a captive thumb turn as well. So you can turn a double cylinder into a single cylinder, and then a single cylinder into a double cylinder. And you need a special tool to pull that thumb turn out. So the point is if you have let's say it's a residential application, and speaking from actual experience, you might want a double cylinder deadbolt, provided that code permits that, and there are instances when it does, because you don't want your toddler to reach up and yank on the door lever and open the door. So you could add, you could have a double cylinder, have that keyed, and then when you need to operate that, in that same scenario, in fact, you could have that captive thumb turn. But let's say you go on vacation for a week, pull that thumb turn out. So now you can't just break the glass and open that deadbolt. The thing that's unique about this is that you're familiar with back sets, 2 3/8, 2 3/4, 3 3/4, 5-inch, 12-inch, 18-inch, whatever the back set is. 2 3/4 is the most common for commercial, but Kaba does a 2-inch back set, and that's really nice. I had a client call me a few years ago and say, yeah, you know, I can't find a deadbolt anywhere. Can't get it, no one's got it. I'm just calling you because, well, I've called everyone else. I've got a pair of 2.0 French doors with 4-inch stiles, and I can't fit a deadbolt on there. All I want is a deadbolt to fit on there. I don't want to put surface bolts. I want it to be keyed. And as the client's taking all this time to talk, I'm thinking I have the perfect solution. There's a 2-inch back set from Kaba. Worked perfectly for the client. A 45 series, really short back set, problem solved. There you go. Okay, let's wrap up this video on camera. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. In conclusion, if you have any questions on this cylinder, and I should have showed you earlier, but I'll just tell you, you can do this in a variety of different lengths. They've got even some 3/4 inch length. They might go out to 2-inch, but lots of sizes in between. They can do it in lots, you know, a dozen plus different colors. 18 different cams. They can do it in 24 or thereabout different keyways as well. The factory can do any keying that you want. We here can do the keying on this project of 3 deadbolts. We're just going to key them all alike. Client wants 6 keys total. It's a done deal. Really simple stuff. Okay, so be mindful of that. We can help with keyways. Corbin, Sargent, Yale, Falcon, Weiser, Dexter, Everest by Schlage they can also do, and then others that can be tossed in there that I'm not recalling right now. There's probably 2 or 3 Corbins, there's a couple of different Sargents, there's 3 or 4 different Schlages, etc. Any questions on the 7245 SC18? That's the 18. That's the SC. And a 10B, that's the 10B, or any other Kaba Ilco product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.